the race I cannot wait to dive into. Race number 14 from Gulfstream Park, the Florida frickin' Derby, baby. Let's go. I am so excited to talk about this race because there's legitimately 4 horses that could win the Kentucky Derby inside of this race.
This is VSiN at the Track. Now here's your hosts, Mike Somich and Aaron Halterman.
Welcome in another VSiN at the Track. I am Mike Somich. He is Aaron Halterman, and we have a explosive show for you. I'm excited, if you cannot tell, because we have got the Florida Derby and the Arkansas Derby both coming up this weekend. 2 big-time preps for this year's Kentucky Derby. The Florida Derby, one that we have been looking forward to for almost a month now, Aaron, and it got better because our boy the Puma, as you broke last week, is going to be there as well.
Yeah, you're welcome for that, I should say, for coming on your show and breaking news on Saturday. But yeah, it's what we've kind of been waiting for, right? We've been waiting for these Florida horses to run against each other again. We've been waiting for Nearly to join the fray after running in January to come run against the better ones that have emerged now. So it is everything we've thought it would be. The Florida Derby, when you added the Puma in there, unbelievable. And I would call us a sneaky Arkansas Derby. I don't know yet to what level. I think that'll be an interesting conversation as well, and of course one that we'll have on the show here coming up.
Yeah, it is. It's Thursday morning, right? We're recording this show. I still am not sure who I'm going to actually pick in the Arkansas Derby because it's that mind-numbing of a race for me. We'll get into that a little bit more as we go to it, but before we get there, we've got to talk about the updates for the contenders at the Kentucky Derby, including Emerging Market winning the Louisiana Derby, Fulleffort taking down the Jeff Ruby Stakes. We saw Life of Joy impress in the Fairgrounds Oaks. We'll talk a little about her and her chances in the Kentucky Oaks. Of course, we've got those race previews, the Florida Derby, the Arkansas Derby, the Gulfstream Park Oaks. Got some questions and comments from everybody in the chat over there at YouTube. Follow us over at VSiN at the Track on YouTube to make sure you catch all the videos and comment. Tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. We've got the At the Track quiz of the week, as well as best bets from Mr. Halterman and myself. We'll kick it off here, though, at Fairgrounds in the Louisiana Derby here. Emerging Market gets the job done. Second career start. Can't wait to talk about this race because I think we believe this was a very different race when watching it, or at least the level of the race. So I'll let you kick it off. What'd you think of Emerging Market? What'd you think of Pavlovian, who runs second? He's going to be in the Kentucky Derby now. And what do you think of the future prospects of these horses in that Kentucky Derby?
Look, I think for the Kentucky Derby, as far as those, that race goes, I don't like much coming out of it. I think Pavlovian is a tough horse. I think he's proven to be a horse that's worthy of making the Kentucky Derby, but I don't really think he's a contender. I think if Emerging Market had a little bit more racing experience, he would be a contender. But off 2 races, I can't back him in the Kentucky Derby. Look, I think if you're just taking the Louisiana Derby for what it was, I thought Emerging Market ran well. If it was his 5th or 6th start, you'd go, well, he's just okay, right? Just your second start, going a mile and 3/16, throwing right into a Kentucky Derby prep race and winning it is really good. I don't care how you look. It was really good to do that. I don't think he's a Derby horse. I think if you told me, hey, this horse could win the Travers, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, probably got to have a great shot because he's going to get better. He's going to improve off of that effort. The other thing about it, when you go and you watch him make his move on the turn, I was like, oh, he's going to win by 5 or 6. This is going to be really impressive. I think he made a big move and then he got really tired. Good on him. Second start to win, to grind it out. I don't think he's a serious Derby threat.
He gets a 90 buyer, regresses off the 97. Pavlovian also gets a 90 buyer, kind of withstanding that run that we saw in the Sunland Derby. I was really impressed with what Pavlovian did. I thought this was a more impressive race from Pavlovian than I did from Emerging Market because Pavlovian did all the hard work. Was up there for a pretty fast pace, was banging heads with those contenders, able to get rid of everybody, and then almost hold off Emerging Market down the lane. It was a very, very close race. I didn't know who was going to win at the 16th pole. And based on the move we saw Emerging Market make around the far turn, I thought I clearly knew who was going to win around the far turn. That's my biggest problem with Emerging Market. I'm never using Pavlovian in the Derby. Never. And if you can't dust him, it's hard for me to want to use you in the Kentucky Derby. I agree with your points that, look, this was a very good race for your second career start. This was like, I'm not saying Emerging Market's not a good horse. It's too soon. It just feels too soon, and I thought watching this race, you could tell it is too soon for Emerging Market to be a true Kentucky Derby contender, which I think is saying something because we're talking, what, 8-1, 10-1 on Derby Day on Emerging Market?
Yeah, I can't support him even if he was 15-1. But yeah, I do think you're right. I think depending on what happens the next 2 weeks, I mean, that's always a bit, we got a lot of big races to go. But yeah, it's yeah, I was with you. Like I think you said it perfectly. And around the turn, I did kind of, my ears kind of perked like, this may be a monster. And maybe but then it's like, you just didn't get by. And by the way, yeah, they went a mile and 3/16. That's tough to do. Your first race against the stakes competition to go that distance. They're going to go even further in the Derby, and it's like, look, you got to think he needs to improve pretty substantially off of that race. And I don't know that the Derby is the race where he's going to make that improvement. So, Pavlovian, you're right. That's the other problem. It's like, you're not playing Pavlovian in the Derby. So I don't know, Emerging Market. I don't know how you get there.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. One of our comments that we got this week was specifically like, hey, you want to see a Derby winning buyer before the Derby. You don't want to have to improve into the Derby to get that buyer to be able to improve to a number you've never had before to win the Derby. Yeah, normally the Derby winner improves, but generally they're going to have a big number that backs that up. Emerging Market's not going to go into the Derby with a big number, right? 97 and 90, but you need to be triple digits if you want to win the Kentucky Derby. And so that is definitely a concern here for Emerging Market. Golden Tempo runs third, officially into the Derby based on the points. Universe fourth, Chip Honcho fifth, Blacksmith a disappointing sixth. Any interest in anybody else in the back end of a try of a super? Specifically, I think Golden Tempo would be the one you're thinking about. We talked about blinkers on last week, didn't see the big improvement we were hoping for.
Yeah, a lot of people are still on Golden Tempo. I'm just one that jumped off and haven't jumped back on. No, I mean, here's the you're always a little scared to say no, not at all, and then you get to Derby week and it's like, oh geez, the pace is blazing, and then it's like, yeah, he's back into the equation, but that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a blazing pace for me to get back interested in him. And even if you get that pace, he's still going to have to work out a trip from the very back. I mean, I think we're kind of done thinking that this horse is going to sit anything closer than the back. So he's still going to have some racing luck as well. So, I mean, like, grand scheme of things for the Derby, no, I'm not interested in him. If we get to the week of the race and there's 8 speed horses in the race and you're projecting it's going to be 45 to the half, sure, then he becomes a little bit of a player. But I couldn't with him the last 2 races anyway. He didn't show me anything to make me feel any different.
It is going to be hard for me to justify putting him in the 3rd or 4th spot. Yeah. Put it that way. I mean, it will have to be pace dependent, but we're about to talk about a horse that I think is probably better coming from off the pace than him. I do think the one relevant part about Pavlovian making the Derby, it's another pace horse. We've seen him go forward the last couple races since adding blinkers back on. He's going to be forward in the Kentucky Derby. Let's shift gears here and head to Turfway Park. We had the Jeff Ruby Stakes, spelled like a steak you eat, from Turfway last Saturday. Fulleffort gets the job done from way back in the pack and absolutely rolls to the finish. Stark Contrast, your favorite, or second choice, I'm sorry, ends up running second there. Medici third. What were your thoughts on Fulleffort and this effort that we saw really justified the race that we saw the previous time that he came out just missing the wire?
I thought this race was really, really good. I thought Fulleffort ran tremendous because I thought Stark Contrast ran pretty damn well, and Fulleffort just went right by him. Again, the problem is, like, for the Derby, hey, what's he going to do on the dirt? We don't know. He seems like more of a turf horse, but pedigree-wise says that he should be able to handle the dirt okay. I thought it was just a super eye-catching move. I thought the jockey change to IRAD, maybe that was the difference. Maybe the extra distance really helped him as well. I thought this was a really good race. I mean, if you just took the races for what they were, I thought this was the more impressive of the two. Now, does that mean he's going to be the best horse moving forward? That's a different conversation, but I was super impressed with this. I think he's a horse that's going to, again, if there's a lot of pace, I think he's Fulleffort, certainly one you got to use in this race.
Yeah, it gets a 94 buyer. If this race was on dirt, wouldn't we be like Fulleffort's one you have to consider as a definite contender?
Yes.
I will say this, if it rains on Kentucky Derby Day, move Fulleffort up. Liam's Map, Unbridled Song on the top. That is a very, very good slop family. Awesome again on the bottom. Pretty good off-track pedigree here for Fulleffort, who is going to be headed to the Derby for Brad Cox. I read Ortiz Road. We'll see what he decides to do, as he's got one mount this weekend that he chose over another. We'll talk about those here coming up in the Arkansas Derby and Florida Derby as well. But I thought Fulleffort was awesome here. Stark contrast, I would expect they do not take to the Derby. This is a turf horse through and through. They does not have the dirt pedigree, the off-track pedigree that we see with Fulleffort. So it feels like this is just going to be a one-horse prep race into the Kentucky Derby.
I really hope Stark Contrast goes back to the turf and runs on the Kentucky Derby undercard, because I think that horse is really good, and I thought he ran really well in the Jeff Ruby. He just wasn't as good as Fulleffort on that day. He may have moved a little too soon as well, and that could have caused it. But anyway, Fulleffort was much the best. I'm not making excuses, but yeah, Stark Contrast, good turf horse. Fulleffort, I think you have to try the Derby after this, because what you just said, if that was a dirt race, we'd be going, hey, wait a second, this is a contender. Try it. If it doesn't work out, get him back to the turf. I think he's fine. So, look, last year you cashed a big ticket because of Final Gambit, who came out of the same race. I think this horse might be better than Final Gambit, Mike. I think this horse has some serious talent.
Yeah, I do too. I don't think I'm going to get the price that I got of Final Gambit to run fourth. And I think that's going to be one of the question marks here with Fulleffort, because I do think you're going to see this horse get back. A lot will depend on Irad and whether or not he lands here or he decides to end up either on Commandment or, of course, his Arkansas Derby mount as well, which he picked over Commandment there in Renegade. So we'll see where he decides to end up. I think that's going to be a big telling sign here. Another impressive result I just want to at least mention here, Life of Joy. She looked good. That was one that we had at 370 to 1. So nice to have some money on her. And she absolutely blew away Bella Ballerina and just looked like the horse the entire race, especially once you got to the far turn. You could tell she was absolutely going to come rolling here. Runs a career best buyer, gets an 86 as she steps forward into the Kentucky Oaks. Do you think Life of Joy is a contender in the Oaks? And what's your take from Bella Ballerina here as a beaten favorite?
Yeah, I think Life of Joy is a contender. And look, I thought Bella Ballerina kind of ran like I thought she would. I mean, she wasn't bad by any means. She finished up finishing second and a clear second, but yeah, Life of Joy just much, much better. That was like a slingshot on the turn. Like, it's like, I was watching Bella Ballerina and it's like, okay, let's scan back. It's like, oh no, she's losing because Life of Joy was running 2-1. So yeah, really impressive. Now the horse that beat Life of Joy over in Tampa is a horse named Zany, who we're going to see run back next week in the up at Keeneland. The name just escaped me. Ashland, up in the Ashland at Keeneland, and so we'll see how she runs. But yeah, Life of Joy certainly stamps herself as a horse that top 3-4 horses right now for the Oaks, I would say.
Yeah, it's short list for me right now.
Yeah.
This was the second off the layoff for Brad Cox. You expected that step forward. I almost kind of forgive the effort at Tampa, because you could tell that was an establishment race where you're trying to really build up the stamina leading into the longer races, and then we saw her be able to turn a corner here. Thought that was a very, very impressive run. All right. I want to make sure we save as much time as possible to talk about these races, because these are some bangers. And we've been talking about getting ready for this Florida Derby, so cannot wait to jump into that. Before we do, if you're not a VSiN Pro, make sure that you head over and sign up. Opening day, MLB, the full opening day today. Look, everyone needs help catching up on what happened during the offseason in MLB. If you can get your MLB betting guide right now, try it for just $9.99 for your first month. Head over to VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. See all of the different subscription options, including $9.99 for your first month. I love betting baseball. I know Aaron loves betting baseball. We'll both have picks up there on the site from time to time. It is one of our sports that we really like to dive into. All right. The race I cannot wait to dive into. Race number 14 from Gulfstream Park. The Florida frickin' Derby, baby. Let's go. I am so excited to talk about this race, because there's legitimately 4 horses that could win the Kentucky Derby inside of this race. We're going to go 1 mile and an eighth. Yes, 1 mile and an eighth, which I'm also excited to see these horses try over that over that Gulfstream Park dirt course. Immediate breath here. We've got Nearly, we've got the Puma, we've got Commandment, we've got Chief Wallaby. Did anyone win the break or win the draw here in your mind? Where like, is there someone that you're like, well, this really changes my opinion on him, or do you think this is pretty even as we drew?
No, I don't think there was anything that made a huge difference. I will say this. I think for a horse like Nearly drawing the 6 and being outside of Chief Wallaby and Commandment, I think that's probably what they would have wanted, although I don't think it's going to make a huge difference. And look, we've seen the Puma. They kind of just want to keep that horse to the outside. Well, he drew the 8, so that's perfect. But look, I don't think it made any difference whatsoever. I think Chief Wallaby, Commandment, Nearly, the Puma, you could probably put them about anywhere. I don't think any of them are absolutely trip dependent other than, hey, don't get stopped, just have a clear run. And I think they're fine. So it's what you want to see. Nothing bad happened at the draw that's going to eliminate any of these horses.
Yeah, and you've got enough speed in here, and none of the four main contenders want the lead. So you've got Wayne's Law, who's got some early speed. You've got Redland Rebels, who I expect to go to the front if we do end up here instead of at Oaklawn there. So he should be forward as well. You've got a horse like the Puma who has some speed, but I think is going to drop back. And then you've got Gregarious all the way on the outside, who has the highest time forward early speed rating, should go. So you've got enough speed in here that Nearly isn't going to need to get the lead when he doesn't really want it. He wants to be able to stalk from just off the pace. We saw that last time out in the Holy Bull. You've got a horse like you mentioned, the Puma, who we expect to drop back and make one big run. He's got the pace to chase here, so no excuse there. Commandment and Chief Wallaby should sit about the same trip, right in the middle of the pack. So I don't see any excuses here, assuming no one gets outrageous trip trouble during this race, that's going to deter us from finding out who is the actual best horse here. I do think Chief Wallaby won the draw simply because you're inside and you're not going to get hung 4 or 5 wide like you did on the first turn last time. But you also, at 1 1/8 miles, I don't see that happening nearly as much. So I think the pace is going to be a little more tepid than what we saw. All of that being said, Aaron, I think everyone knows who I'm picking. Well, actually, maybe not, because the Puma is in this race with Chief Wallaby. Where are you going on top for this year's rendition of the Florida Derby?
This really is like your two children are in the same race,
It's
Somich.
tough, man. It's tough.
I'm sure you were rooting for the Puma to go anywhere but here, right? I think we're going to learn who your favorite kid is, and I think the number 2 Chief Wallaby is going to be your favorite of the two children that you have here on the Derby Trail, and I'm going Chief Wallaby as well. I think you made a really good point, and I'll piggyback on a couple things. I think Chief Wallaby wins the race if he wasn't so wide in the Fountain of Youth to begin with. So shouldn't be wide here. That's very good. I also think Chief Wallaby wins the race if it's 1 1/8 miles, and we're getting 1 1/8 miles here. So a couple of really good things. Here's one thing, and I'm glad he's drawn inside. He's a very lightly raced horse. He's going to be inside. He's going to take dirt in his face. I think that is important that he's going to do it here and not maybe in the Kentucky Derby for the first time when it's tenfold. He's going to get an education here. I really hope they keep him inside, even if it costs him the race, so to speak. Keep him inside. Get him another education here. To have him take some dirt and then just tip him out. And hey, if he's good enough, he will win. So I like him inside. But listen, I would have picked him if he drew post 20 in this field of 9. I still would have taken Chief Wallaby. I like him that much. The first race was very impressive. The second race to me was more impressive because he was taking on, no offense to the Puma, better horses going longer, not the best trip in the world, and still got the job done. So number 2, Chief Wallaby for me.
Yeah, no surprise. I will agree with you. Give me the Chief Wallaby. I still think this is your Derby favorite, or should be your Derby favorite. Haven't seen anything that really pushes me off that over the last couple weeks. I do love the Puma, but that was because of who the Puma was running against. We're stepping back up here. This is a big time step up from the Tampa Bay Derby, jumping over here to take on a field that has, to me, 3 legitimate Kentucky Derby possible winners in it. I do think Commandment is going to be a little distance concerned. First, my case for Chief Wallaby is very similar to yours. The maiden special weight was the best race I've seen from a 3-year-old or 2-year-old in this class on debut. Period. End of story. It was awesome. You saw the natural talent, never got asked. I thought that the Fountain of Youth, everything went wrong, and the horse still ran, and I thought was going to win, and then I feel like didn't really realize Commandment was on the inside, and then tried to re-engage, but didn't necessarily have enough time. I think Chief Wallaby's a monster. I think Chief Wallaby is the most likely horse to improve off of that Fountain of Youth race, and the most likely horse to take a step forward. And if that happens, that's your winner. Like, if Chief Wallaby gets better, watch out. Like, it's going to be a very awesome spectacle to see. Commandment did beat Chief Wallaby last time, so we do have to talk about Commandment. We kind of teased this a little bit earlier. Irad Ortiz heads to Oaklawn Park and decides to ride Renegade for Todd Pletcher. Now, $1 million race over there, or I'm sorry, $1.5 million race over there at Oaklawn. This is $1 million in the Florida Derby. However, rarely in the final prep does someone decide based off money, because guess what's worth more than both of these? The Kentucky Derby. That's the amount that these riders care about. I think it says something that after we talked about the Fountain of Youth, we talked about how Irad clearly asked the horse for additional distance just to see what was under the hood, and now he's making the move to decide to go to Oaklawn. That tells me that maybe he wasn't blown away with what was under the hood on Commandment.
Yeah, I think with, and we've talked about it with jockeys, like decisions, there's a lot that goes into it. What you said is a big part of it for sure. There could have been prior commitments or this or that or whatever that, maybe he just wants to ride for those connections. Todd Pletcher more than Brad Cox, but that's possible too. There's all kinds of things, but look, it can't be taken as a good sign for Commandment. That is one thing for sure. Now, how negative is it? I do think it's debatable. It can't be a good sign. Here's how I treated Commandment. I really, like I said with Chief Wallaby, I feel like if the race was a mile and an eighth, he still would have won the Fountain of Youth. Okay, so Chief Wallaby's here, so I don't really have to worry about Commandment to pick to win, right? Also, when you look at the trips, come on. Commandment, give him credit. He was on the inside. He was able to rally on the inside. A lot of young horses don't really want to do that. Commandment did, and he had to fire, and so give him credit for that. But Wallaby had a much tougher trip. So I'm a little out on Commandment as far as, using on the pick fours and the pick fives, because I just feel like Chief Wallaby is better than him and will beat him this time, right? And that's without the whole IRAD situation.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I think to your point, like, look, there are a lot of reasons jockeys decide to go somewhere. I don't think you just immediately dump Commandment because of the jockey switch. I'm not knocking Flavian Pratt either. Pratt picking up the mount is a great rider to pick up the mount. I'm not saying this is a big time issue from switching to IRAD to Pratt, anything like that. To me, the bigger issue is like we had distance concerns heading into the Fountain of Youth. Mm-hmm. Cox mentioned them. IRAD mentioned them in interviews. Like both of them talked about it. And then what they did in the race, and then IRAD choosing to go somewhere else. That all of those combined, to me, are the reason why it's hard for me to want to take Commandment here. It gets even harder for me to want to take Commandment in the Derby when we stretch out to 1.25 miles. But hey, Brad Cox, very good trainer. Pratt, very good rider. We'll see what they're able to do on the racetrack. Nearly. We got to talk about him as well. The winner of the Holy Bull sat very close to the pace and was able to then run on. They went fast that day, 22-4, 45-4. We've seen Nearly come from off the lead, but with each time the race stretches out a little further, started at 6, went to 6.5, mile and a 16th, got closer to that pace. Is Nearly going to be on the lead here, right on the pace? And is there a trip that you don't want to see if you are backing Nearly?
I don't know what to expect from Nearly. How about that? How about just the honest answer to I don't know what you should be upset with if you're backing Nearly in this race. And here's why. We saw him come from off of it, and that was fine and probably even better than when he was on the lead, but he still won a Kentucky Derby prep race pressing the pace by 5 3/4. Didn't finish all that strongly, but, he was up there and he did win. The problem with me more than the trip, with the trip, I'll say this. It's always good when you see versatility on the past performances versus you see you have to be in the front or you have to be in the back like a Golden Tempo. That makes it very tough as the races get tougher. It makes it tougher and tougher to win. I kind of think he can do what the jock asks him to do. So I think the trip is not really my worry. My worry with Nearly is he hasn't beaten or even ran against a horse that's any good at all, really. I mean, Bravaro finished second in the Holy Bull. He's not. I think Bravaro is a very nice New York bred horse. I shouldn't say he's no good at all. That's not fair to him. He's not really a true contender, in my opinion. Confessional, who he beat in the allowance, he sucks. Come on, for Derby purposes, he's not. So it's like, what's he going to do when he's up against much better horses? Is he going to be to that level? Because you can look at speed figures all you want, but until you get out there against these good ones, you don't really ever know. He's not really, to me, like he didn't really just blow me away with either one of the wins. What were they very good? Yeah. But was it like, whoa, Chief Wallaby maiden win? Not really. But at the same time, I think he's the biggest threat to Chief Wallaby because he's the one I just don't know. I really, if my eyes don't lie to me here, I think Chief Wallaby's better at Commandment, even though he lost. I think he's better than him. I definitely think he's better than the Puma. No offense, but I do. I don't know. Nearly's the one that I don't know what to expect from him here.
It's fine. We know you hate the Puma. That's been long established. You just openly talk crap about the horse for weeks leading up to the Tampa Bay Derby.
It's not that. It's not that as much as it's just...
Look, we'll talk about the Puma in a second. Okay. So we'll get to there, and we'll let you defend your boy, the Puma, who's really my boy. But you, honestly, you are a little higher on it than we joke about here. We're just having a little bit of fun with Aaron. Don't worry. He'll have other bad takes that we can expose later. Nearly, look, you hit the nail on the head. Look, the 4-horse field, 6-horse field, the last 2 races, there was nothing in there. Absolutely nothing. And I mentioned the early fractions in the Holy Bull. The late fractions were not good. Like 144 and 2 after you go 110 to 6 furlongs means that you are running 2 seconds slower than 6 seconds for every 16th of a mile, which is about what you want to do once you get later into these races. Let's just look at, and again, not a huge time guy, but let's look at the Holy Bull, which goes 144 and 2 versus the Fountain of Youth, which goes 143 and 1. That's a 5-length, 6-length difference between those horses. So Nearly's going to need to improve to compete with Chief Wallaby or Commandment and hope that neither of them improve. All that being said, I kind of agree with you. I think if Chief Wallaby loses, it might be Nearly is the one, because we don't know what's under that hood either. There could be more for Nearly here, and Nearly will sit closer to the pace than either Wallaby or Commandment or obviously the Puma.
Yeah. I mean, they ran 45 and change to the half in the Holy Bull. And if he runs 45 and change to the half of the Florida Derby, he's got no chance. So
no chance.
To me, it's a game of don't burn him out early, but get distance from Chief Wallaby and Commandment and the Puma, because those are your guys, that are your horses. They are guys as well that you're going to have to beat, right? But you can't burn yourself out. So I think Johnny Velasquez has a tricky ride here.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to get distance, but from them, but he also can't burn himself out. There's a part of me that goes, Pletcher has these really, really good horses this year. He's always kind of treated this one like, hey, he's number 1 because he pointed him here, and his number 1 horse almost always runs here. So to the Florida Derby, specifically what I'm talking about. So he's always kind of treated him like, okay, Florida Derby got that race on lock. We're going Nearly, and now we'll spread out everywhere else. So that kind of is a good feeling if you're going to back Nearly, I think. But again, there may be more under the hood. What if he's just a monster? I don't think he is, but he could be. And then maybe he'll beat Chief Wallaby. But I think that's what it's going to take to beat Chief Wallaby and Commandment, really.
Yeah, I think, look, it's going to be a hell of a balancing act by JV if he can get this done. Because you nailed it. He's got to be ahead. He's got to be up 6-7 lengths. And they can't do it by going fast. And I just don't know if that's even possible.
I don't think it is.
If anyone could do it, it's Johnny Velasquez. I love, he has been an awesome big-time rider. He's done wonderfully at Gulfstream Park, specifically from an ROI perspective, getting horses at prices home. And look, I think Nearly has an opportunity, but I think it's going to be tough for him. The 4th big-time contender here, the Puma. I really wish I liked the Puma more in this race. I think we're kind of, chickens are coming home to roost here. This is just a little bit above his pay grade. Can he run 3rd? 100%. Could he possibly run 2nd if Nearly's not that good? 100%.
Yep. Is
he going to be able to beat Nearly, Commandment, and Chief Wallaby? He'd need all of them to misfire, in my mind, to be able to get the job done.
I agree with you. I think even though this is a tougher race, I think it sets him up better than going to the Bluegrass and then going to the Kentucky Derby. You're going to get the race at home. You don't have to ship. You got a little more time before you get to the Derby. So I think it sets him up well for the Derby. He doesn't have to, he could run last and still run in the Kentucky Derby. He's got the points. So I think they're kind of playing with house money a little bit in this race. I think they just kind of decided, look, we'll stay home. We know he likes this track, and let's just see what he does. And hey, they're high on him anyway. Maybe he'll beat a couple of these and run well. I'm with you. I don't think he's a serious win contender here. And also kind of the point of look, he's in already. It's 21 days, a 3-week turnaround. And I'm not sure they're going to absolutely ask for his absolute best here either. I think he's kind of the one that maybe Commandment a little bit too, but it's we don't have to get to the bottom of him here, where Chief Wallaby and Nearly, they really need to run pretty well in this spot. So I'm very fascinated, though, to see how he matches up, because I think the Tampa races were tougher than usual this year. This is a different level. So I'm very curious to see what he does.
Yeah, definitely tougher than usual. And I do think had a little bit of a more troubled trip against Chief Wallaby in that debut. So that'll be interesting to see how he comes back as well. I'm going to be interested to see if we see more speed from him too. We saw him come from directly off the pace. I want to really get an understanding of what style to expect in the Kentucky Derby here from him. And I think if they go directly to the back, that tells us that is going to be the style, right? We've seen these connections run second in this race with Mage before, but that was on a all Gulfstream Park trajectory. They did not go over to Tampa and then head back to Gulfstream. Castellano back to ride the Puma here. I mean, I'm probably going to have a pretty decent sized Chief Wallaby over the Puma exacta. Let's be honest. Just play it cold. Play me some Chief Wallaby over the Puma. We do have other horses in this race. You've got Albus, you've got Wayne's Law, you've got Redland Rebels, Timeless Victory, and Gregorius. First off, I got to ask you this. Big news dropped in the entertainment world. I ask you this every time we have a horse named after a specific movie or book series. Albus, what's that from? You should know this one.
Is that Dumbledore, right?
Yeah, there you go. Harry Potter. Yes, Albus Dumbledore there.
Yeah.
Gregorius also could be named after someone out there. Gregorius Games from Ready Player One. I don't know if you ever saw that. Nope. It was interesting. Got some good reviews, some bad reviews there. The movie theater, very good book. Any interest in any of these other horses that are in here outside of the big four?
No, it's less of a knock on the other horses and more of just like, gosh, this field is really good, and you got to be really good right now. The news is Redland Rebels he's going to go to Arkansas. Like that's been confirmed. Yeah, that's a very good choice. He would probably be one you would think of. I'll say this: I'm interested to see what Wayne's Law does. Maybe he can get out in front and be the one that holds on for a tiny piece of it. So that's maybe one. Timeless Victory did stretch out to this distance and looked better last time out. But again, I think you're really have an imagination before these horses get up to a spot that really matters.
Yeah. To me, if it's any of them, it's Albus that surprises at a big number. Interesting that Riley Mott enters this horse with his dad having Chief Wallaby in here. It tells you that they probably think there's some pretty decent upside. And this was a horse that debuted at Keeneland for a lot of money, went to Churchill for a lot of money, then went to Tampa, broke the maiden in Tampa. Now you're getting second off the layoff. Yaupon was a sprinter, not someone I necessarily want going long. That's a concern for me. However, Yaupon, the son of Uncle Mo, Bernardini on the bottom, tells you there should be some distance in here. If anyone, and I'm not saying upsets the apple cart, I don't think anyone but the big four can win here. If anyone hits the board, to me, it is Albus who's able to stalk, because the other thing that all of these horses that are a cut below have in common, they all have been in the lead the last time they ran. So they all kind of have the same style. You can't really point to one and say that horse is going to get loose.
No, you can't. And even if they do, then it's like, okay, are they good enough as it is? Even with Redland Rebels out, I do kind of think the pace will be honest enough.
I do too.
Yeah. So that's another thing that points towards, Chief Wallaby commandment. So anyway, yeah, and the Puma really. So yeah, it's just like, if you want to take a speed horse in the race, don't you take Nearly? Like, isn't he going to have a much better chance to hold on than the other horses? So yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, look, we always talk about where speed is, what post speed has really determines how fast a pace can be. The fact that you have Albus on the rail, it's got to go. Yeah, right. And the fact that you have Gregorius on the outside kind of has to go like that. All of a sudden, everyone else is like, okay, we're going to have a pretty fast pace here in the Grade 1 Florida Derby. $1 million on the line for 3-year-olds, as well as 100 Kentucky Derby points to the winner. Number 2, Chief Wallaby for me. Number 2, Chief Wallaby for Aaron. That is race number 14 from Gulfstream Park's Saturday card, which is absolutely loaded, by the way. We'll head back there in a second. But before we do, we've got to go to race number 13 at Oaklawn Park. Aaron's favorite race of the prep season every single year, the Arkansas Derby, Grade 1, $1.5 million on the line for these 3-year-olds, as well as a boatload of Kentucky Derby points, 100 points to the winner. Aaron Halterman. This race is a absolute cluster in my mind. I am still not positive who I'm going to pick, so I'll let you go first. Who do you got on top here?
Yeah, I'm with you on it. It's very, very tough. So the number 7 Napoleon Solo scratching, that to me means Renegade's going to be like 4 to 5 in this race. I think Renegade's going to get bet really hard. I have always been a big fan of Renegade. I don't fully trust him at 4 to 5. I couldn't do it, Mike. I went back and forth on this a lot like you. I think maybe even you more so think this was a little bit bigger of a puzzle. Listen, I went back to the number 2 Silent Tactic, and I'm going to pick number 2 Silent Tactic on top. I went back and watched the Rebel, and I think how you view the Rebel is kind of going to be the key to how you handicap this race. So in the Rebel, Class President was able to win by a nose over Silent Tactic. You go back and watch that race, it looks like at the top of the stretch, Silent Tactic is going to run away from that field, and he just couldn't do it. Class President fought back and like I said, beat him by a nose. Did you think that was on Silent Tactic? Did you think he hung a little bit? If so, you may not want to play him here. I kind of think Class President just ran a huge race there. I think Silent Tactic ran a winning race and just got beat. Class President isn't here. I think Silent Tactic makes a big move again. I think he finishes it off this time. So I'm going to go number 2 Silent Tactic.
Yeah, look, the Napoleon Solo scratch mattered to me for a couple of reasons. First off, I was considering picking Napoleon Solo if he stays in and Redland Rebels stays in Florida. Because then all of a sudden, I think there's a pace argument you can make for Napoleon Solo. I also think it would have benefited a horse like Silent Tactic because you would see a hotter pace up front. I'm going to go to a horse that I have not picked before. First off, Renegade, I agree with you. 4 to 5 is likely and is too short. I get it. Most likely winner. Price is wrong for me. Give me Blackout Time. The number 3 horse, 6 to 1 on the morning line here. Kenny McPeak, Hernandez rides. I'm going to go with the Too Bad to Believe last race. I just don't trust that horse is that caliber. It runs a 78 buyer first off the layoff after running a 93 back in October, which actually kind of got validated in my mind when you look at the maiden breaking score there where we get an 83 buyer, that the logical step up there is to right around a 93 when you're talking about a couple months off. Ran second to Ted Noffey in that spot, beat Litmus Test in that spot, comes back off the layoff and was wide that entire trip, or at least on the second turn there, was forward and then just kind of backed off a little bit, looked like a tired horse. Distance shouldn't be a concern here. Not this time out of a exclusive quality mare. I think that was simply a horse that needed a race. And now we get a better price, second time out, in a race that I think is more wide open than people necessarily think. Let's take a little bit of a shot. This horse was 2.7 to 1 last time. Now you're getting 6 to 1 on the morning line. I don't think that the win odds have been halved just because you have a race that's Too Bad to Believe on paper. Give me the number 3 Blackout Time here, 6 to 1 for Kenny McPeak.
Yeah, I don't blame you for taking a shot with him. I do think improvement is going to happen here. He was the one that, when you go back and look, like the 3 Blackout Time and the 9 Litmus Tests were coming off of layoffs for the Rebel last time out. But Blackout Time was all the way back from October 4th of 2025 because he scratched out of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, where Litmus Test was coming from a December race. So it wasn't that big of a layoff for him. When you go back and watch Blackout Time, he's definitely the one that looked like he needed that race bad. He put himself in a decent position early in the race, and he just didn't have any. He was empty, right? He didn't make any kind of run at all. I thought about him for a while. I do think all along Kenny McPeak kind of pointed for these 2 races as kind of a set to get him ready, and this was the race where he would have a much better effort. So I think there's a chance he bounces back. I'm with you. The biggest thing for me and why it kind of opened the door, Renegade for me, just on paper, he's just not a standout in this race. And so I have no problem, picking a horse that's a short price, but they got to stand out, and he just doesn't. And so it does open the door, and you start to dig into these horses. Blackout Time's Breeders' Futurity back in October was good. It was a good race. I thought he ran really well that day. And if he can kind of just get back to that plus a little, he's there, right?
Yep.
I mean,
that's where, when I'm betting a 4 to 5 shot, I want that horse to head and shoulders stand out above everybody else in the field. And let's just look at buyers. I don't have time for them in front of me, but Renegade's career high buyer 93 off the break. You would assume you're going to get a little bit of improvement. Career buyer at 2 is 87. Blackout Time career buyer at 2 is 93. So all of a sudden, he already is there, right? Silent Tactic ran a 91 last time out. He's right there with Renegade. Napoleon Solo is not obviously scratched out, but was in the race at 6 to 1. Ran a 95 in the Champagne at 2, so better 2-year-old number. Logically would have a better 3-year-old number moving forward. Litmus Test ran a better 2-year-old number. I mean, there is no reason that this horse should be 6 to 5 or 4 to 5 outside of the fact that this is a second-time Pletcher who looked good against Renegade and has the Paladin form, and everyone is betting this horse off of the Paladin form, which totally understand. I just think it's a little overdone here. And I think Renegade is your most likely winner. I just can't at 4-5.
See, I don't even think he's the most likely winner. I think Silent Tactic is. So that's why I
Ooh.
do. Well, Mike.
Oh, I
Well,
like it.
okay. You
I
you
like
just
it.
talked you just talked about buyers.
Yeah.
Let me talk about time form. I've got time form in front of me
There
because
you go.
that's a lot of times that's why we're different because you're looking at buyers, I'm looking at time form. But and I want to be very clear about something. A number is one thing, right?
One
It's
aspect.
not even the main thing. And for example, last week, Emerging Market I think had like the 4th highest time form coming into the race, and I picked him because I thought he would improve. Renegade, his highest time form is a 107. That's like 5th in this field. Okay, so right off the bat, I see that and I go, okay, we got to dig deeper, obviously, but that's not a great sign. And you dig a little deeper and it's like, I like Renegade, but I don't view him any higher than Silent Tactic at this point. I don't. And then it's like said, well, I mean, if Blackout Time improves, he might be just as good. So, and you said Napoleon Solo, it's like, well, if he could kind of bounce back from that poor trip, poor effort, he might be right there with him. And so all of a sudden you've got 4 or 5 horses that make sense. And I've heard a lot of people say, IRAD's here, single Renegade, move on. Well, I think that if you like Renegade, that's kind of the strategy. You're going to have to single him, basically. I wouldn't just sit there and talk you off and say that's crazy. I would just say I don't really agree with that.
Yeah, look, if you like Renegade, you got a single, right?
Yeah.
You're right
Yes.
because of the price. IRAD being here tells me, in my mind, and again, this is my personal opinion. Everyone out there, you can have a different opinion. Comment below if your opinion is different on this. I think it's more of a negative on Commandment than a positive on Renegade. Like I'm taking it more as, and again, it's because of what they said about Commandment going into the race and the fact that IRAD tested him at the end of the race. All of that tells me that this was like in the back of his mind that he was leaving Commandment the whole time. And so I'm not going to say I'm going to give Renegade a huge bump up because I think he left Commandment because of distance issues, not because he's going to the Renegade because he believes he's just a far superior horse.
You know what I think it is? And again, I want to preference exactly what Mike said, where I'm guessing, just like everybody out there is guessing. Even if you think it's a great sign, it's a guess still.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's if you think it's a great sign, that's a very logical thing. I'm not saying it's not, right? And you out there that want to bet Renegade and think he's a lock because IRAD's here, that's not illogical. We're not saying that's illogical. I think he committed to Renegade early. And I think that's why he's here.
Okay.
And because you got to remember, Renegade's been pointing to this race for a long time. Like pretty much out of the Sam F. Davis, they kind of were saying we're going to Oaklawn to the Arkansas Derby. That's this race. That's what fits into the schedule that we want to do. I think IRAD committed well before they ran the Fountain of Youth. And then when I think they ran the Fountain of Youth, and all of a sudden he had a little problem on his hands, right? I really don't think it's a huge negative for Commandment, and I don't think it's a huge positive for Renegade. I kind of think it's just, it is what it is type of thing.
Yeah, to Aaron's point, a lot of time we don't know all the behind the scenes stuff that happens with these jockey decisions, and they don't going to tell us. So you kind of have to read between the lines, read the tea leaves, however you want to put it. And it again, it's an opinion. It's not, and it can help you form your opinion. You could be right, you can be wrong. There's no factual evidence behind any of these, unless you hear it right from their mouth, and that's assuming you believe them, because we've talked about not believing trainers. So I don't generally believe all of it.
Right.
I do want to mention Taptastic.
Oh, good.
I mean, if it rains, right? Like this horse could improve big time.
I mean, do you want my insane thought?
Yeah, fire. Let's hear it.
I had him on top for a bit.
Ooh, Taptastic, by the way, the 5 horse, 20-1 for Steve Asmussen. His son Eric Asmussen will ride. You had him on top. Really?
I got a little smarter by the end of it because I was like, don't do this. Because here's why I ended up is like, no, that's stupid. Don't do that. Because you saw Emerging Market, who just had one race last week, and he was all out to beat Pavlovian, and you go, well, wait a second. Taptastic is not as good as Emerging Market, and he had trouble doing it. So I tempered to keep him in the tries and supers because listen, one race, it was 1 mile right here at Oaklawn. He was facing older horses. Now they weren't that great, but they were older. I thought he did everything super professional. He was
Mhm.
and he's a tappet, so it's like, oh, this could be bad.
This is going to be bad.
Right? Yes, but he's tappet out of a Curlin mare. Curlin was not. He's very well behaved. He did everything really professionally. He sat off. He made a nice run up the rail, so he
Mhm.
showed maturity. I happen to think Eric Asmussen is a good jockey. I'm not sure about his brother, but I think Eric's pretty good. I kind of like him. This may not be the race, but I would say if you like him, go ahead and you're going to get the prices. It'll be fine. I'm not going to have him to win or on pick 4s or 5s, but I thought that was a very impressive debut. I think it was a sneaky impressive debut.
You are more of an Asmussen guy than I am.
Oh, for sure.
You know him better because this Oaklawn's your home track.
Yes.
And no jokes there. I saw the wheels turning. I saw the wheels turning.
I stopped myself, Mike. But it was there.
Bill Mott doesn't do this. And we say when he does this, it's a sign that the horse is good. Does Steve Asmussen do this? This is a big jump from a maiden special weight with 5 horses all the way into a grade 1 Arkansas Derby. He doesn't have another in this race, which I think, that's part of it. But does he make this move often when we're talking about, a maiden jumping all the way up here to grade 1 competition?
Not often, but it's not totally out of character. It's not Bill Mott, right? It's not that kind of thing. I've seen him do it before. He doesn't do it all that often. The other negative, and you hit on it, and I kept saying in the back of my mind, Asmussen is a guy that he has a horse in this race every year, right? Like, no matter, he's going to find. Could it be that, hey, and we've talked about it, he's pretty light on 3-year-olds this year, and it's just like, yeah, we'll throw him in there. We'll see what happens. So there is a part of me that's saying that. It's like, maybe he just wants a horse in the race. My dad pointed out something, and I thought it was a very good point. He goes, he said, I like Eric Asmussen as a jockey, okay. He said, but when it's a horse that's really serious, he usually gets somebody that's not his kids to ride. Good point. And so that worried me a little bit as well.
Yeah, I would. My counter to that would be twofold.
Okay.
First off, it'd be hard to get another. Like, you're not getting Irad or Jose, right? Like, it's too big of a day in Florida as well as at Oaklawn to be able to get one of those guys onto this horse. And secondly, if you're going to take a shot, take it with your son, right? Like, he rode him the first race. It was very professional for him. He's worked him in the morning. So I don't think that's necessarily as big of a deterrent as some people might, just because, like, you're not, who are you getting?
Right.
Who's riding him?
Yeah.
Like, who's flying from Florida and leaving their mount there to come here, and vice versa, who's getting off their mount in this race to jump on him. So that's, to me, not a big issue. I do think Taptastic live for the try. Yeah. I may sprinkle in the pick 5 because I do think there is a chance that this horse is able to step up, especially if it rains. If it rains, pay attention there. That is race number 13 from Oaklawn Park, the grade 1 Arkansas Derby. Number 2, Silent Tactic for Aaron, 5-2 on the morning line. Number 3, Blackout Time, 6-1 on the morning line for me. We mentioned it earlier. Look, if you are watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment down below. Who do you like in the Arkansas Derby? Who do you like in the Florida Derby? If you're listening on podcast form over Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we appreciate it. Make sure you're subscribed, and make sure you check out youtube.com/VSiN at the track as well. You can drop your comments below, ask questions, join the community right there, VSiN at the track on youtube.com. And breaking news here, Aaron, if you don't want your comments to be public, you can shoot us an email now at thetrack@vsin.com. Firing off an email, ask us a question. If you do, though, if you want it read, you got to include the last racetrack that you were at in person. I want to know when the last time you were out at a racetrack, where it was, because Aaron and I, we love going to racetracks all over the country, all kinds of sizes. Love to hear where you were last time you were at the races. All right, let's head back to Gulfstream Park before we get to the comments and the best bets here, Aaron. Race number 9, the Gulfstream Park Oaks here. 3-year-old fillies taking center stage as they try and lock up points for the Kentucky Oaks. We got a reasonably good field here. I think you're going to really be focused on a couple of horses that faced each other in a maiden special weight. She Be Smooth for Todd Pletcher and Promkeem for Brad Cox. Are you going with one of those two, or you go with somewhere else on top?
Boy, it does feel like a 2-horse race, doesn't it? I think number 6, She Be Smooth, is too good for me. I got to pick her on top in this spot. Dude, I'm telling you, I really, it's one of those things. The maiden, it was like, that was eye-catching, but I wasn't like over the top about it. The Devona Dale was just a tour de force in that race.
Mhm.
Like, she was amazing in that race, and I just kind of looking like, okay, that was though we're both 1-turn miles, right? But now we're at a mile and 16th, so it's different at Gulfstream because you're going 2 turns versus 1, and so it makes a difference for sure. I just kind of watched how she finished, kind of watched how she galloped out. I watched the replay again before finalizing the picks. I thought, I think a mile 16 is going to be fine for this horse. She's not exactly bred to go that long, but the way she runs, I think she'll be fine. So I went number 6, She Be Smooth on top. I really like this one.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Look, I agree with you. I think it's a 2-horse race. I don't see where the speed comes from here,
Okay.
and I think Prom Queen is going to be more forward. I'm going to take Prom Queen instead of She Be Smooth. And it's simply because I think the trip is going to be a little bit better for Prom Queen here, who was on the lead when these two faced each other at a mile. I think sits closer to the pace, not on the pace this time. And you go back, you watch the Devona Dale. That was a mile race, 1 turn. She Be Smooth won impressively. She also got the setup that entire way. Like it was basically all speed horses and her. And you go back and you watch it, and she's the one that just kind of wheels around them and just leaves them standing alone. And a lot of it was because they went 23-2, 46 to the half. That means they went sub 22 or 23 seconds in that second quarter, 111 to 6 furlongs, and she was 8 lengths off that half-mile pace in last, and just kind of circles everybody. So to me, that race is a little bit better on paper than it necessarily was in real life because of the setup. She looked great doing it. I don't want to take anything away from her, but I just think it was a dream situation. I'm going to go with the better price. I think I'm going to get a better price on Prom Queen here. Morning line's not out yet here for this Gulfstream card. What are you doing, Gulfstream? Come on. So give me Prom Queen at the better price here, but I do think it's these two that I think are the main threats to win this race.
Nothing more annoying than morning line's not out for your biggest day, Thursday on a Saturday. Anyway, I don't want to get into it. I said it's a 2-horse race, so there's no way I can't hate your pick. I think it makes total sense. The one thing that I went back to, and again, it was a debut race and things change. I understand that. But, Prom Queen had a pretty good trip the first race and, and got beat by She Be Smooth. And I don't know. I just kind of I went back and watched that one again. And I was like, yeah, there's really not a big excuse for Prom Queen. Now, the one thing I'll say, Prom Queen, if I could speak correctly, I do think breeding wise might stretch out a little bit better, at least from a breeding standpoint only, than the 6. So I don't hate the pick at all. And look, last time out, I thought she ran extremely well, obviously, to win by 8. So I'm with you. I don't think this race has the depth of the Florida Derby, but boy, do I think these two horses are pretty good. And I think we could exit this thing and go, hey, these are 2 contenders for the Kentucky Oaks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I agree. I think both of these horses should be Oaks contenders and should be right in the middle of the mix there. It's going to be fun to see the 2 of them go. We do have 5 other fillies that are headed to the post here. My guess is My Miss Mo, probably your leader early here. Ran against She Be Smooth last time. I thought did a very good job to run second in that race, breaking from the inside. I mentioned pretty much all speed, and she was the one that hung around. Do you give her any chance of going gate to wire in this field? Second off the layoff here for Saffie, getting Tyler Gaffley on the board.
Yeah, I put her in second, or excuse me, I put her in third behind the 2-horse we talked about there. And yeah, I'm with you. I liked the race last time out. She was 26 to 1 that day, so she outran the odds. We're guessing you're gonna have to get a shorter price. Who knows what you're gonna get? Why would they let us know that? But anyway, so you can tell I'm angry about that one. But look, I do think. I am with you. I think this is the one that's setting the pace. And I'm with you. I think it looks a lot better for her than it did in the last race when everybody was going towards the front.
Yeah, this is the interesting part is Nasty Z right to the outside of My Miss Mo is really your only other horse I think wants any interest in the front. That is also a Saffie horse.
Yeah.
Now, we don't see this at Gulfstream as much as we see at Santa Anita, where Bob Baffert has the speed horse and the blocker. This does set up well if you want to go speed horse and blocker for Saffie, and you've got the go-to rider in Gaffleon on My Miss Mo, who I do think gets forwardly placed here. Ken Sweezy here signs on Johnny Velasquez for a second off the layoff run by Just Singing, a horse that was bet pretty well in the Rachel Alexandra last time over at Fairgrounds. Just Singing, the 4-horse in this race. Any interest in an improvement here, second off the layoff, heading to Gulfstream Park?
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. I look, I put the horse in 4th, so, you wouldn't say, hey, that's a shock that they win. But we saw this horse run against Bella Ballerina 2 straight times and really not threaten. Second off the layoff should see improvement. I think if we see Just Singing win here, it kind of tells us this is not that good of a race, right? I just kind of feel like if you would have been a little bit more threatening to Bella Ballerina in a couple of those races, then maybe you come down here and just get the job done. But I think it would tell you that the horses that we think are pretty good maybe just didn't run very well or aren't as good as we thought.
The one thing I will say for Just Singing, Ken Sweezy, 21% when adding first-time blinkers. $3.40 ROI. We've talked about some of these horses down the trails for both the Oaks and the Derby. When you add blinkers, the idea trying to get a little more forward, hope that you still have the same kick at the end and that you don't kind of cost yourself that ability to close. I do think it's at least a little interesting that Just Singing adds blinkers after that Rachel Alexander, where we saw the horses who were forwardly placed be able to hang out and stay forward, and Just Singing kind of makes that move. Johnny V stays aboard. This is, to me, there's a clear top 4. Right, and this is one where you kind of decide how you want to play a superfecta, if it's cold, if it's mixing up a little bit below. But to me, it's My Miss Mo, Just Singing, Prom Queen, and She Be Smooth that are going to run 1 through 4 in this race. The question is, what order do you get those 4 horses in? That is the Gulfstream Park Oaks, race number 9 from Gulfstream Park with Oaks points on the line. Give me the number 5, Prom Queen. Give Aaron the number 6, She Be Smooth. All right. Before we head to the best bets, Aaron, we always want to talk a little about the comments. If you want to leave a comment below and have it read on the show, head over to YouTube at VSiN at the track. Leave your comment below this video or any of the videos that we put out this week, or shoot us an email at thetrack@vsin.com. First comment here coming in from Boxcar Ent. I'm assuming it's Boxcar Entertainment. The weeks leading up to Kentucky Derby is the best part of the Kentucky Derby. True or false, Aaron?
100% true. 100% true.
I love these prep races.
Yep.
I do. I love the Derby. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
I love these prep races too. I love the hype around the horses as you get into this. I love falling in love with Chief Wallaby and getting to talk through it this entire stretch after that race. I love the prep season.
I think the worst part of the Kentucky Derby is the race itself. I think everything leading up to it makes it what it is.
Yep. Jeff Bauer dropping a line here. We've talked a lot about Commandment, but he wants to jump in. The lack of respect for Commandment, highest buyer debate, I do believe. Also, a gutsy horse who tracks others well and goes when he is asked. I think Cox consistently gets his horses to run better on Derby Day than Pletcher. Also, I feel that Paladin is a little overrated. The Risen Star was visually unimpressive, and he was taken to the wire by a horse everyone seems to agree is not good. Interesting comments there. I think Commandment we're going to find out a lot about this weekend. I could be totally wrong. Maybe the horse can get the 1.25 miles or 1 1/8 miles. I'm out on the Derby. I don't think he can get a 1.25 miles. I think that's one of the main reasons why we both talked about dropping that horse down, specifically when we were doing that draft. I'm not sure what to make of Paladin. Do you have any more faith in Paladin as we've gone through this, or are you still like, maybe not?
No clue. Because really the only horse you're measuring Paladin to that's another good horse is Renegade, and we haven't seen Renegade run since the Sam F. Davis, right? So I don't know if Renegade wins by a couple in the Arkansas Derby, like a lot of people think. Well, then okay, that's good for Paladin. But I think Paladin's total make or break in the Bluegrass next weekend. I could see him being tremendously overrated because that's not going to be an easy race. So, or I could see him doing what I kind of think he'll do and take another step forward. The Commandment stuff, it really is all coming from they said, hey, we're worried about the distance more than anything else, right? So I don't necessarily think I am disrespectful towards Commandment as a racehorse. Unfortunately, we're talking about Derby, and that's when I get a little bit worried about him.
Yeah, same here. We'll see what he's able to do this weekend in the Florida Derby. Ron Birch, real quick, wanted to chime in. I think one of you should have drafted Further Ado. I think you're probably right. I think that was one that we maybe whiffed on there. I'm kind of, I regret taking my last pick on Incredible. Maybe it should have been Further Ado instead. You're higher on that horse than I am, though, so it would have more been on your onus to take him in the draft.
I don't know what to do with him. Ron's probably right. I think I took Cherokee Nation maybe or something. Yeah, probably right. Probably should have took Further Ado. I don't know what to do with him. I think he's a lot like Paladin. I think the Bluegrass will tell all. So, hey, you get Further Ado and Paladin there, and we'll have maybe a couple others, obviously, as well. So I think that'll tell a lot on him, but probably an accurate comment.
All right. We've got our quiz now. This is fun. We get to do a quiz every single week. And this week with the Florida Derby, we're going to have a Florida Derby related quiz. Do not use AI. Do not use Google. No cheating, folks. I want to see true answers here. It's okay to get it wrong. I think this is a kind of a fun question. Who was the last Florida Derby winner to win the Kentucky Derby? Was it Tiz the Law, Sovereignty, Nyquist, or Orb? I know you know the answer, so you can't answer. But everybody else, make sure you select an answer here. Our weekly quiz here this time. Who was the last Florida Derby winner to win the Kentucky Derby? We'll talk about it next week, as hopefully we also talk about Chief Wallaby being the next Florida Derby winner. See what I did there? To win the Kentucky Derby. All right, best bets, always one of our favorite parts of the show. I'm going to let you kick it off here. Race number 7, Gulfstream Park. Who you got?
Well, look, I don't know the odds. I'm going to give you
Tell me how you feel about that, Aaron.
I know. Why do you draw on Saturday but not get the odds out yet? Okay. I went number 2 Grande here as my first best bet in the Ghost Sapper Race 7 here at Gulfstream Park. I am worried about his odds, so I will give you an alternate pick. But to Grande at first, his comeback race was really good. He had a huge speed figure in this race as well. Not a whole lot going on here for me in this race. Not a very strong race overall. So I do like the number 2 Grande on top. If his price gets too short, go with the exacta 2 over the 1. I think Forge Steel has a good shot in here as well. I think he'll set the pace. He won by 6.5 last time out at Tampa. I think he sets the pace here. I think Grande comes and gets him, maybe not that late, but in the stretch. So I think a 2-1 exacta if the price on number 2 Grande drops down too low.
Yeah, I don't mind the 2-1. Take a look at Capital Idea as well. I think Capital Idea, second off the layoff, stretching out, might be an interesting way. I don't think you're going to get a very good price on Grande, so I do like the idea of going with a cold exacta here. My first best bet, fast forward one race further, the Orchid Grade 3 1.5 over the turf course. Going to the outside here. Give me Belza here for Miguel Clement. Flavien Prat takes the mount. This is the number 7 horse in this race here. I love the fact that this horse won off the layoff when coming over from Ireland over into the U.S. Now we're first off the layoff here. Ran in the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, one of the toughest turf races out there. Had trouble in the first turn. Kind of just draw a line through that one. Now you're coming back here. This horse has won from the outside before. I don't think that's a problem. I think Belza ready to roll. First off the bench for Miguel Clement. You get Flavien Prat. First best bet for me, Gulfstream Park race number 8, number 7, Belza.
I had to pivot because that's who I was going to write down, but you beat me to it. You beat me to it on that one. So, yeah, obviously I agree. I love this horse. I read a big article on Miguel Clement and his big turf horses getting back to action this weekend. He's very high on this horse. He's also very high on determined. Is it deterministic or determinedly? I can't remember. One of those. I can't remember the name of that horse now, but he's very high on him. Going to run back at Keeneland. So keep an eye on that one, too.
Miguel Clement has yet to be proven a liar. We like trainers, we have in lists of tell the truth, do not tell the truth. Miguel Clement so far has told the truth about his horses. So we'll see if that continues this weekend. Oaklawn Park race number 5, second best bet from you. Who you got, Aaron?
Yeah, Oaklawn Park race number 5. I'll go number 7, Noble Affair in this one. Steve Asmussen with Irad Ortiz aboard. This is the horse he was coming to ride, Mike. He's just riding Renegade for the extra money. No, just kidding. Noble Affair. I do like that Irad gets aboard. Coming off a gate-to-wire victory last time out at Fairgrounds. Looked pretty good doing it. Going 6 furlongs there. Going 6 furlongs here. Draws outside of all the speed. I watched that race back. I don't think this horse is particularly headstrong. I think if somebody goes crazy, the 7 will sit off. Or if he can clear, I'm sure the 7 would like to do that as well. But either way, I do like the 7, Noble Affair in the 5th at Oaklawn.
Yeah, lots of speed sign on, including another Asmussen horse. Violence is in red, the number 5 horse. I think this is a situation where he sits, and I think he has a big chance to run a big race here for Noble Affair. Keep an eye on the 3, Special Ops, if you want to play an exacta underneath. The horse ran 3rd to Noble Affair, improved last time out. I think is the best horse from off the pace in this race, which should be interesting as well. 10-1 there if you're looking for an exacta play. Race number 11 from Gulfstream Park, my second best bet. This is the Army Mule, 7 furlongs over the dirt course. Mentioned a horse named Capital Idea last time. Well, Capital Idea lost to a horse named Pantheon last time out for Shug McGahee. That was first off the layoff after running in the Cigar Mile 2 back. I think you're going to get an improved performance here from Pantheon. And this is a spot where it just sets up beautifully for this horse to run well. We've seen Dylan Davis ride well since he got back in the irons. You've got a lot of speed signed on. Pantheon should be able to sit right behind that speed and pounce. 7 furlongs right between the eyeballs from a distance perspective for this horse. 2 for 5 for the career at the distance, including a third-place finish. I think we get a price on Pantheon here. I think this is clearly your best horse coming from off the pace. I think everything plays well here for the number 2, Pantheon, in the 11th at Gulfstream Park, my second best bet of the weekend.
Pantheon. It's pentathlon.
Oh, biscuits. All right. Pentathlon, the number 2 horse, Gulfstream Park, race number 11.
Am I on the wrong race?
Oh, man. I was thinking of, yeah, never mind.
Well, listen, I can't make fun of you because I called deterministic determinately. It's deterministic, by the way. I just looked it up. Okay, this race.
Pentathlon. Pentathlon. It's
Pantheon,
funny.
Maybe this.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah.
Okay. This is your classic race.
Yeah,
it's a really,
there's
really
a lot of
difficult
chances.
race. Yeah,
a lot of chances. I'm going with what I hope is a like 4-1 winner.
Dude, I think you'll get. Man, I think you might get like 6 or 8. I really do. I think the horse will be priced about right. Yeah, a good horse. Like I don't have the horse on top, but I'm going to use in the pick 4s and 5s. I definitely think this is a wide open race. I will say this: out of the 14 races at Gulfstream, this has got to be top 2 or 3 of just tricky, right? Tricky race. So, yeah, I like to pick.
I think Macho Music and Concrete Glory are. There is a Concrete Gary, too. So that was a fine mistake there. Concrete Glory as well are going to go gangbusters from the jump. And at 7 furlongs, I think that sets it up for a horse here like the number 2 Pentathlon to be able to get the job done in Gulfstream Park race number 11. All right, that's going to do it for us here, VSiN at the Track. Another wonderful episode. Not perfect this time, as you've heard us both mess up horse names there in the last 10 minutes of it, but a lot of fun anyway. If you have any questions or comments, make sure you shoot them to us below here at VSiN at the Track over on YouTube. Send us an email if you want at thetrack@vsin.com as well. Make sure you let us know what the last racetrack that you were at so we can talk a little bit about some of our favorite racetracks around the country. For Aaron Halterman, super producer Matt Deutsch, I am Mike Somich. Let's go, Chief Wallaby. Good luck this weekend at the track.